Right now on Talking Music, I am joined once again by author Andrew Wilde, who has written a fantastic book about the 13th of July, 1985. It was, of course, Live Aid. Hello,
It was.
Andrew.
Hello, Chris. How are you? Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you. Now, um, I was a mere 3 years old when Live Aid was on. And
I
I
was
you
19. All right. I
oh
get the point.
do you know what though? I'm rather gutted. I used to have the four DVD box set,
Yeah.
and when I moved over here to Bradford, I cannot find it. I know there's
Yeah.
bits on YouTube, obviously official now, but you must remember watching it. I'm guessing on BBC Two back in July '85.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're coming up to the 40th anniversary. This time next year is the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, which is astounding. But I remember very, very clearly it was a hot sunny day. It was a Saturday, and everybody wanted to watch this concert, which at the time was the first big kind of charity gig, multi-artist charity gig that had really ever taken place. And the whole thing had been so well stage managed by Bob Geldof, over the previous 3 or 4 months that the anticipation was really, really keen. I remember sitting down in my dad's house. I was 19. I was back home from university during the summer, sitting down 10 to 12 in the morning, waiting for Status Quo, the first band on. And 3 o'clock the following morning, I was still there, having watched the entire broadcast start to finish, with the exception, because I went to get my tea. I missed George Thorogood and the Destroyers,
No, no, it
who
could have been
played.
worse. You could have been somebody else, I guess, couldn't you?
Yeah, I guess so. And it was just a fabulous day. And considering it was all done really on the hoof almost in a very, very short period of time, it was all organized within kind of 6 weeks. The quality of the performances were particularly good. And what I remember most when I revisited these to write these up for my new book was actually everybody, even those that you didn't really like at the time, at Kershaw, point in question, were fabulous. They were really, really good. So I guess the older you get, you lose your prejudice, I guess. And, it's either music you like or music you don't, and the genre is irrelevant. And if it's played well and performed well, then you enjoy it. And I really, really enjoyed going back and revisiting not only the broadcast from the BBC, but the majority of MTV's broadcast is available now on YouTube, a lot of which you didn't see because everything ran in simultaneously and you
Ah,
can't
right. I
watch the
see. Yeah.
ones. So for example, Santana's set was not really shown particularly in the UK, but you can watch it all now on YouTube, and they were terrific as well, and so tight. So even um, the reunion of Led Zeppelin had its moments, although it went a bit pear shaped towards
Well, funny
towards
you
the end.
mentioned Led Zeppelin because obviously they gave instruction to cut their material out of
They
the
did.
DVD release, didn't they?
I did, and Santana surprisingly are not on it either, which is, I don't know why,
Ah,
because they were one of the highlights for me. But yeah, uh, it was an interesting story because Phil Collins was asked to perform with Eric Clapton, which he did in Philadelphia on that day. And he was also asked to perform with Robert Plant just as part of Percy's solo group, because Phil Collins played in Robert Plant's solo band at that time as well. And then Jimmy Page was brought in, and then John Paul Jones was brought in, and then the drummer Tony Thompson from Chic and from the Power Station was brought in. And Collins suddenly realised he hadn't really got a role, but he'd agreed to do it as a favour to Robert Plant. And he came across very famously from Wembley to Philadelphia on Concorde and played with no rehearsal. And Jimmy Page blames Phil Collins for the kind of ropey performance that they did that
yeah.
day. So I think is a bit harsh. You don't have to listen to it. It wasn't Phil Collins' fault. And subsequently, uh, their performance was not given permission to use on the DVD set. You can go and watch it on YouTube. And thankfully, the remaining members of Led Zeppelin got back together a few years later, didn't they, for the Celebration Day concert at the O2 and put all those wrongs to right. But yeah, long day, fascinating day, full of great performances. And what we've done here, a little, there we go, plug it.
Oh, look at
Hello,
that. I love the cover. I love the
there
cover.
you go. Well, actually, there's a ticket there from from the Wembley show was scanned for my other project, the book about prog rock that has just come out, because one of the people who I was sitting with, going through his scrapbooks, had a copy
Oh
of the
my
ticket,
goodness.
and he was there on the day because he worked for the same management company as Phil Collins, was able to get tickets. So yes, so the synchronicity going on there. But this one takes every act, every song, talks about why they're important, which were good, which were not so good, um, who made their name at Live Aid. You think of U2 when they came forward. Who performed at Live Aid for the last time together? Duran Duran in the original lineup was their last gig for many
I
many
never
years with the
knew
five
that.
of them. So it's all in here from the perspective of a fan who sat there in front of his telly in Stockport in 1985 and watched the entire broadcast. It's great memories.
I mean, for you, which names do you think were missing that you would have thought would have been there? I mean, I'm a big Robert Palmer fan, and I was always a bit surprised that. I mean, perhaps it was because it was a year before Addicted to Love and not quite the
Well,
mainstream singer he
you
was. I
say,
don't
you say that,
know.
Chris. You say that, Chris, but Power Station played at Philadelphia
That's
without Robert Palmer.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know why he wasn't there. But the name for
No,
me, who should have been there, and I think regrets not being there, was Bruce Springsteen.
right.
You think of 1985, he's at his absolute
Yeah,
height.
yeah.
He'd just done a massive tour. In fact, his stage at Wembley Stadium was left from the show he did about 3 or 4 days beforehand in July. He
Right.
flew back. He just got married. He flew back to Jersey and decided not to go. And I think I read somewhere that he wished he'd stuck his acoustic guitar in the back of his car, driven down to Philadelphia, which is what 70 miles or 80 miles
Yeah.
away, and turned up and done a couple of songs on his own. I
Just
think
something. Yeah,
Springsteen is
yeah.
the obvious one. And the big rumors at the time, of course, and I believe these are true, is that George Harrison and Ringo Starr spoke to Paul McCartney about performing at Live Aid. But as soon as there was a leak about whether that might happen, they cleared off. But they did meet and talk about it, and it was potentially on the cards. And that is why, if you look at the original lineup, Julian Lennon's name is in the program as performing with Sting and Phil Collins. But once the rumors flew around that possibly the greatest band of all time would be on stage together,
Yeah.
then that was given. That was the lid was put on that very very quickly indeed, which is probably for the best, maybe. But
We'll never
yeah,
know.
we
So,
will never know. But nice to think.
so how, I mean, obviously there's various kind of bootlegs and things like that to watch out there now. Did you, for your research, did you watch the BBC links, the bits that were in between, or did you just
I did.
focus?
I did.
I bet,
Yes.
I mean, gosh, that obviously there was the infamous Bob Geldof moment
Yeah.
where he pledged the money. Did
Which
he
he
not
didn't
say? Is that
say.
right? Ah,
Exactly right. And that's detailed in here as well.
right,
He does not say, "Give us your effing money," because
right.
I went back and checked that little link
Yeah,
from the BBC. So yes, I did everything I could find and everything I could listen to. So I
yes.
think I've got an 18 CD bootleg box set of every note from both concerts, something
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness.
All listened to and all assimilated and analyzed, and it's the full story. It was good fun. I really enjoyed doing it. It took about 3 months to get through everything, but it was all right. It was good to do.
I always think it'd be good to watch it all in one day. That I would take, but you know, I mean, revisit it. But I'm guessing
Have you got 15 hours to spare?
15
I'm not
hours is
sure I
no,
have.
no, with three kids. No, no, no. What would your pick though of your favorite song from both Wembley and Philadelphia be, Andrew?
Wow, there's a question. So from Wembley, I'm going to give you a left field answer.
Go for it.
So Paul Young at the time was a real big kind of heartthrob in the pop world. You'll remember Paul Young. So he did a set of 3 songs, and he brought on Alison Moyet, who at that time was just getting kicked off in her solo career.
Yeah, yeah.
They did a song called "That's the Way Love Is," which was a cover version of an old soul track, and they'd clearly not quite rehearsed it enough. And in the middle of the performance, you can see Paul Young's eyes start to look worried because he's not sure where he is in the song. And Alison Moyet brilliantly just turns to him and gives him the cue, and they're back on the beat and back into the groove of the song. And it was
Oh,
just that spontaneity in that particular performance where you think, that's live music. There it is,
Yeah.
brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. In terms of Philadelphia, well, I'm going to say Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I think, because they were just such a tight band. I saw them around that time at the end of the 80s. And they just turned up and they looked at each other and said, okay, what should we play? They hadn't even thought about what songs they would play because they were that good and their
Oh
repertoire
my
was that big.
goodness.
And they kicked off with American Girl, which is one of their great tracks.
Yeah.
And they were so tight, just brilliant. And the American leg of the tour was of the show was particularly well recorded, actually. So it's in brilliant stereo if you watch it on YouTube, the Tom Petty set. But I think I pretty much enjoyed all of it. But those two stick out because they were, for me, typical of what a live performance can bring. And that's what it was at the end of the day. It was a 13-hour live show.
I remember seeing clips from the Style Council at Wembley
Yeah,
since, and I was particularly impressed with them, and I still love Paul Weller now. And didn't I could be wrong here, at Philadelphia, did the Beach Boys play? Did
yeah,
they
they did.
reunite? I can't remember them sounding particularly well, but they did reunite, didn't they? Or did they play together?
They did. They did. So Weller was second on after status quo at Wembley with Style Council. I think he kind of brought the energy down a little bit by choosing. I think he played. I'd have to look up which song it was. Um,
I think he did
he,
Internationalist and
I
with the
think it was.
wall.
I think it was that one that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
brought down
yeah,
the mood a little bit. But
yeah,
then he turned it around, and I think they finished with "Walls Come Tumbling Down," which is
yeah.
absolutely fabulous, and brought the mood back up again. And yeah, the Beach Boys were on a strange time, like 11 o'clock in the morning in Philadelphia. It was the first time that Brian Wilson had performed with them for, I think, 8, 9, 10 years, something like
Wow.
that. And they were already a legacy band in '85, I think. I mean, I love the
Yeah.
Beach Boys, especially their late '60s, early '70s stuff. But it was pretty showbiz at Live Aid, to be
By
honest with you.
Live Aid. Oh, well, I tell you what, show you front of your book once again, Andrew. Let's
Yeah,
give
here it
it
is.
here we
Here it is.
go.
It's called Remembering Live Aid. It's available at Burning Shed and Amazon. It's published now. It was published last week, and it's a lovely read. And all of the profits and the royalties go to the Band Aid Trust or to the Live Aid Trust as well. So every penny that we make from here will go to a great cause as well. So
We will have
win-win.
we will have to check out. Andrew, thank you so much for bringing back and revisiting Live Aid. 39 years on. Whoa, that is crazy. And
39.
thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
joining us.